and on day one, the honour of opening the first major soccer tournament of 1992, as it had done at Italia 90, went to the Cameroon. And it was a tale of brotherly love as Oman Biak laid on the goal for Kana Biak, helping on the long throw as Cameroon saw off Morocco by 1-0. Then the host nation Senegal against Nigeria, the one the crowd had come to see. Game 2 of the evening, Nigeria taking the lead on 13 with the impressive Sia Sia. An equaliser for Senegal through Bakande on 39, but the home fans sent into the night silenced when Keshi got forward to fire the winner on 88 minutes, and look at the delight there on the faces of those Nigerian players. 2-1 to Nigeria. And so we move forward to day 2 of the 18th African Nations Cup. And coming up for you tonight, live and exclusive on Screen Sport, action from Group D as we bring you Egypt against Zambia. Hello and welcome. Well, as you join us here in the stadium in Ziguinchor, we've just kicked off in this Group D match. Egypt and Zambia. We've been underway for no more than 15 seconds. You've missed none of the action. Your match commentators for this game from Group D, John Helm, and first we hear from David Pleat. David, a great game in prospect, we hope.
I think so. Egypt have got a lot to prove. They haven't done so well since the last World Cup in Italy, where they won a lot of friends by their football. They found goals difficult to get, but they won a lot of friends, and it will be fascinating to see, with the experienced players that they have that are playing in Switzerland now, and the players that Algeria has put together, how they can do today against Zambia, possibly the dark horses of this group.
Thank you, David. Yes, a lot of pressure really on the Egyptians. They were so unpopular 2 years ago when they decided not to play in Algeria. They were basing that on the fact that they wanted to perform well in Italy, that the rest of the African Federation really did fall out with them. The ball would be switched inside here by one of those well-known players, Ahmed Ramsey, who made a name for himself in the World Cup 2 years ago. The two Ramses, in fact, and the two Hassans really were, along with Choubir, the goalkeeper, perhaps the stars of that Egyptian side. Egypt playing in the red shirts and the white shorts, and here is Hossam Hassan, plays now for Neuchâtel Xamax. Build up down the left. One thing is for sure, the Zambians will be athletic.
I also feel, John, they'll have to conquer the surface. It's not the best playing surface, and I'm sure we're going to see one or two unkind bobbles.
Yeah, that has been noticeable certainly during the tournament so far. Zambians then in the white shirts and the black shorts, and they had quite an impressive build-up really. They played 6 matches in getting this far, and they were beaten just in one of them against Swaziland. They lost by 2-1. The coach was sacked at that point, but was later reinstated. Choubir, who did actually come to Everton in England for a trial, and they decided not to take him. He's a great fan of Neville Southall's. And the injury you see is to one of the Zambian players who is rolling down in agony. The referee today is from Senegal, Senor Sene.
Yeah,
the injured player is Makwaza. Yes, Linus Makwaza, who plays for Power Dynamos. Now, I can tell you something about them, David. They've just made history by becoming the first Zambian club side ever to win a tournament played throughout all the African nations. So, obviously, their pedigree is quite good at the moment.
Yes, we have to look at these club sides. They're forming now the basis of emerging countries, and they need as much experience as possible. Of course, some of the players are getting the benefit of moves into Europe. Kalasha Bawalya, who, there we see the incident there, and he's caught that on the back of his head as McNazar, and I think he's okay though.
Yeah, look at these stretcher bearers, there's enough of them, aren't there? Both sides of the field. And the play will restart with a throw-in for Zambia. constant drumbeat. Something we don't always associate with football, but I think you get out of the Brazilians or the Africans playing, they do love the rhythm.
Yeah, they do. They love playing and working, and a lot of the training is done to rhythmic work. They've got a nice feel for the ball. It'll be interesting to see early on whether Zambia allow the Egyptian defenders to have the ball and just to funnel back, or whether they make any attempts to pressure the ball. I think it's going to be very difficult to play a short ball game looking at the pitch, John, but I'm sure it's going to be very foreign to them to start hitting that longer ball and hitting their front players early, a slightly more European game.
You were making a point to me before the match started, David, about the qualities of some of these players. They do like to take men on individually, but perhaps don't always play within a team pattern.
I think they're very fine dribblers, there's no doubt about that. They can handle the ball individually, they can control it well, they can run at people, they have tremendous power and pace to go by with the ball. But I've seen the first couple of games and I was just a little bit disturbed by the lack of coordinated team play between players. That individuals wanted to gain personal glory by doing something clever themselves on the ball, not always in the last third of the field, where most coaches would encourage it anyway.
The ball picked up by Melu. And at the other end, the opposite number, sweeping up at the back, as he will do throughout the game, Yaken, from the Zamalek club, one of the top two, along with Al Akli in Egypt. One of the founder members of the African nations, and the first real effort on target comes from Zambia. The Egyptians, one of the three founder members of the African Nations Cup a long time ago in 1957. They won the first tournament, they won the second tournament in 1959, but have been successful only once since. That was in 1986. Abdel Ghani hits it straight against the back of the Zambian Makwaza, the man we were talking about from Power Dynamos.
It looks as though Chikabala is going to play up the front. He looks as though he's got good poise and control on the ball, and he'll probably be ferreting up there. We'll see what support he's got. There he is in the picture.
There again, you saw the ball bobble away from Abdel Ghani. He was able to recover. This is the Egyptian lineup, very much as expected. The one surprise perhaps was that El Kas was preferred to Solimon. But otherwise, some familiar names there: Shubir, Hassan Ramzi, Abdel Ghani, both Hassans in fact, and Abdel Hamid, all featured significantly in the World Cup in Italia '90. And of course, they went pretty well, losing only by a 0-0 to England, drawing with the Republic of Ireland and with Holland. Man on the ball is Abdel Hamid. It's not a bad ball either to Hassan, but he's not able to make much out of it. And goalkeeper Elford Chibala, there he is, Chibala number 1. He actually plays his football now in Argentina for Argentinos Juniors. But watch out for number 11, Wolaya. He plays for PSV Eindhoven, so Bobby Robson could tell us a thing or two about him, David.
I think he's scored something like 8 or 9 goals already this season, and he was a real star player when the Belgian people spotted him and took him over. I think it was to Cercle Bruges, and friends of mine in Belgium were telling me about this star young player, Kalasha. And of course, in this tournament, other young star players are going to emerge. It's not just Africa that have their eyes hidden to this tournament.
I'm sure that is right. There are something like 180 African players currently playing professional football in Holland, France and Belgium in particular. That just shows the growth of the game in Africa. I think it was Walter Winterbottom who first recognised the potential 30 years ago, and he said, you watch out, you know, before the end of the century they might win something.
Well, it's quite right, John. 1 or 2 journalists trying to do me a favour suggested that I should get out there quickly this week and try and get someone for my club, but of course even these African players cost a little bit of money, and I don't think we can quite afford the airfare at the moment.
Just straight into Luton, mind you.
Oh, well, maybe I should look tomorrow.
Straight up in the air from Chomba Egypt stringing it together rather more impressively at the moment, but as of course we say that, they go and lose possession. So Zambia come, they look, as I said at the onset, to be quite an athletic sort of side, Zambia. They want to run. But passing difficult on the surface, as David Pleat has said. Relatively new stadium, this one. In the city of Ziguinchor, in the south of Senegal. Great excitement here when it was announced that the matches would be played in Ziguinchor. There is Ragab, the man who has been brought in at the last moment for Egypt, wearing number 15, but the long throwing back to Tchabala is from John Soko, another of the Power Dynamo players. And this is Mulenga.
Mulenga playing as a sweeper, looking to pick up everything that comes deep. There he is, safety first, always sitting in front of the goalkeeper. Be interesting to see if either team push out and catch the other team offside or attempt to condense the space. I very much doubt it.
It's known as the zone of death, by the way. Egypt, Zambia and Ghana, 3 of the strongest teams in the entire competition. Ghana have won it more than anybody else. They've won it 4 times. Egypt have won it 3 times. Zambia, one of the 4 countries who have never won the African Nations Cup. So they don't come any tougher than this group.
No, I'm sure as well the partisan football supporters in this part of the world, particularly in Egypt, where there's fierce rivalry, particularly between the 2 big Egyptian clubs in Cairo, El Ahly and Zamalek, and there's a tremendous interest in soccer in this part of the world, and back home they will have to suffer a fierce press and the old tomato throwing and all that type of thing if they don't succeed and do well here. There's a lot riding on this competition, and I'm sure once we get a goal in this particular game, the whole thing will really spark off. Already Senegal are really upset about having been dismissed or from the first game in such dramatic last-minute fashion. That really has put the cat amongst the pigeons for the host country.
Very much so. In fact, the coach of Zambia, Sami Ndlovu, has already said that our dream is going to come true in this tournament. They daren't go home if they don't win it. Here's a chance there for Egypt. As we were talking about the Zambians, Egypt put a move together there, and El Kas was the man who got in the header. Ahmed El Kas, who plays up in Alexandria for the Olympia club. Egypt's way to the finals, by the way. They beat Ethiopia, and then Ethiopia withdrew at that stage because of political unrest. The really critical victory was the one over Chad by 5-1, because Tunisia had 9 points as well as Egypt, and it was only on that goal difference that Egypt made it through to the finals.
If you run a line through that, I took my side Luton to Tunisia recently, and Senegal and Tunisia both played in that tournament, and we were quite impressed with Tunisia. Indeed, they were 2-0 down.
Oh, cracking drive from Hassan. That's Ibrahim Hassan's shot, and that was, I would think, less than 6 inches away from being the first goal of the match. It seemed to clip almost the underside of the crossbar, and a very lucky escape for Zambia.
Yeah, tremendous shot that, and that could easily have flown in. Certainly the goalkeeper was beaten. He made a valiant attempt, but there was no way he would have got that. And at this moment in time, Egypt just look a little bit more penetrative. The deep cross that El Kas didn't quite direct down across the goal. Maybe we'll see the shot. Here we go again. Tremendous shot there. Ibrahim Hassan actually touched onto the bar.
Yes, credit to Tchabala there. It was a good save, actually. You'd have thought from the angle, it was a pretty straight angle. It was straight at him. You'd have thought he might have flicked it over the top.
John, he should have tried to beat the ball away. It was too fierce to catch, but he should have tried to beat the ball away. In the end, it could have been an embarrassment helping it into the net. I mean, it's a 30-yard effort. But Egypt now just beginning to turn the screw a little bit. And there we see that characteristic long throw that we see so much in the English game. Egypt will remember for sure how England scored against them in Italy. And they know that ball into the box and the value of being able to head the ball.
Mark Wright was the man, wasn't he?
That's correct. And a lot of the African countries, we felt both Tunisia and Senegal were most comfortable on a marvellous pitch when the ball was on the deck, but they weren't that happy when the ball was thrown into the box in the air.
Across from Abdul Hamid, more trouble inside the Zambian penalty area. Molenga got it out, the sweeper. And what's more, this time they have found one of their own in Makwaba. Turned back by Bawala. And this is Changwe. That looked like a handball to me. And again, this pitch plays its part. Ball bouncing at unpredictable heights. And that's one thing that professional footballers hate. Some rather serious faces there for the moment.
It's so important on a bad pitch to get to the pitch of the ball and to try and trap the ball before it bounces in front of you or takes one or two rolls, because so much can happen to it. And that, I have to say, is the value of the artificial surface. It gives players the opportunity to pass the ball true and fast.
Zambia finished third 2 years ago when these championships were last held in Algeria. And they've done rather well, actually, ever since they first qualified. And that wasn't until 1974. They'd only been going for 10 years. Football didn't start in Zambia till 1964. They're defending again, however, here with Osam Hassan, trying to thread the ball through to Youssef. He's kept at bay. And in the very first time they played in the African Nations finals, Zambia actually got through to the final, only to lose to Zaire in a replay. A rather wayward cross for Egypt. There's a lot of pressure on Egypt here because people will be expecting them to win rather than Zambia.
Yes, the early indications are that they will probably be able to do that. It looks to me as though they've been instructed to get the ball into the box a little bit earlier. Don't play too intricately. Try and get amongst them in the box and use the power, particularly of Hassan, to try and force a goal. And that would really make Zambia come out. At the moment, I haven't seen anything from Zambia to threaten the defence of Egypt.
That's absolutely right. And Egypt coming onto the ball once again with Youssef's pass, concentrating their attacks very much down that right-hand side. Whether or not they feel that the left-back Chwenga might be a weak link, I'm not sure. But they adopt just as professional an approach to the game there now in Africa as we do in England in many ways. For example, Zambia have been away to training camps in both Italy and Argentina to make sure they get it right. But they're defending once again, and they're defending well this time, getting that long leg in the way to prevent Hani Ramsey getting through. So they try to break themselves with Mawitwa's ball. It's Mawitwa with the throw-in as well. Seen plenty of it at the moment. Now it's Soko. Cleared as far as Youssef, the Zamalek player. Well, that's going to be a free kick. The foul unquestionably committed on that far side by Changwe. He was the one, David. I wondered whether they were trying to work hard on Changwe, because they do seem to have concentrated a lot of the attacks down that side.
Yeah, he's effectively playing in a left-back position. There you see the tackle, rather clumsy. Golden rule, stay on your feet. Certainly in the middle third of the field, there's no need to commit yourself there. If you have to go on your backside, you may do so, only if it prevents a goal-scoring chance.
So Zambia beat Swaziland by 5-0 in their home game, but then were beaten 2-1 in Swaziland. They had a difficult game in Madagascar, beat them at home by 2-1, and did the double over Angola. So that was their route to Senegal. When you think, of course, Egypt has a population of 55 million, and Zambia just 8 million. They have a lot of players to choose from. A few million in Cairo alone.
And it is quite remarkable, John, that for a tournament so important to all these countries, they have prepared, or ill-prepared as the case may seem, a pitch so poor. I wonder what Messieurs Havelange and Blatter, watching this tournament, would think about that. Certainly from the professional viewpoint, I would say that it gives the players a real problem before they start, and it can be very have a demoralising effect on players when they pass the ball and it goes astray because of a bad bounce.
Yes, that's true. You can do nothing about elements like the wind and some of the conditions that we play football in England, but a pitch you can do something about. And this was pretty dreadful. Number 12 in your picture for Zambia is Makwabi. It's another of the power dynamo players. They do have some glorious Christian names, these fellas. Chibala, the goalkeeper, rejoices under Elford. And they've a Derby in the side as well. And one player called a beauty. Well, we'd say if he scored. Kept in play, only just by Matwima. Worked away nicely as far as Abdel Hamid. But that breaks down once more, so we've had no goals in the first quarter of an hour of this game. But Egypt do look the stronger side and the better passing side. And there's Hassan, one of the 3 players who now earns his money. He's living with Neuchâtel Xamax in Switzerland, and Glasgow Celtic know all about him. 4 goals he got against them in one tie. Abdel Hamid. Look at the ball bouncing around again there. We're going to hear quite a lot of whistle today. It's the sort of pitch again which induces handballs where you normally wouldn't do. Foul challenges perhaps as well.
Yes, I just sense that some of the players are beginning to settle a little bit and come to terms with the surface. Although it's quite obvious, even to our viewers, that it is a poor surface. You know, the players have to learn to cope as best they can, and we've just seen some good play by Zambia in the final third, attacking third, where they shielded the ball and waited and tried to make more certain in possession. I think that to give the ball away hurriedly is even worse under these conditions. Make sure you've got control before you try and do anything too early. It means that you're going to have to spend a little bit more time on the ball. Certainly at the moment, there's no fierce challenging, particularly of the back players on either side. I have to say at this stage, it looks like a low-scoring game, but hopefully it's a scoring game.
Well, yes, you never know. But at the moment, chances very few and far between. Zambia got 1 header on target. Egypt have had 1 shot, which the goalkeeper managed to flick against the underside of the crossbar. He survived then. Throw-in taken by Soko, who operates as an orthodox right-back. They're keeping it going here, and they're going to get a good shot in as well. That wasn't a bad effort at all from Makinka. Willing to try his luck, and that was good to see because he didn't have a lot of space, but Makinka whipped the shot in and over the top.
Tremendous effort, half volley, taken with his left foot, taken quickly. Makinka, essentially a right midfield player, playing on the same part of the field as Soko, and has done some good things so far in that right-hand corner. But there was a sign that there's a man with an explosive shot, and close down the shots. That's going to be important. But so far we've had few and far between, but that was a cracker.
Certainly was. A name to note, Makinka. Long ball. Trying to catch them out, and the goalkeeper just coming, and he stays down. Hassan caught him. They can ill afford to do without goalkeeper Elford Chibala, that is for certain. I would have thought he'd be all right. And of course, Egypt just as concerned about Hassan. One of those awkward balls that both players felt they had to go for.
I think the goalkeeper got the ball clearly. There wasn't a problem there, but as he went in, Chibala, he caught the knee, and I think for his troubles, he's just got a knee in the cheek, and I'm quite sure that he, once again, is going to be okay. Here we see it again. Yes, probably just caught there. Nothing serious, certainly no intent.
No, I think the referee didn't take any action. And here we go again. Again, you see this awkward bouncing ball, and the presence of his own central defender confused him perhaps as well.
Could have been a very dangerous situation, actually. The ball was just holding up over the last defender. The goalkeeper's coming. In that situation, he would have been wiser to stay the goalkeeper. The defender was still favourite, and just give him some space between himself and the defender so that he could play the ball back. That is the perfect situation, which often causes confusion and results in something terrible, a goal.
Something terrible. It is when it's against you, David, isn't it?
Correct, John.
Managers hate goals unless they go in the opposition net. Here goes this tall, lanky figure again of Mawitma, and just unable to get it through to Webby Chikabala. There's a name to conjure with. Webby, she's a supporter of Manchester United.
Yes, well, I'm sure a lot of English players are going to be having an eye on this tournament, purely out of interest as much as anything, just to see that these players from this continent can continue to emerge in the World Cups. They're slowly getting more representation, and obviously the success of Morocco in '86, and then Egypt.
And Algeria, of course, as well.
Algeria, Cameroons. It would be very wrong to ignore them, and it'd be wise to keep an eye on them.
And it's Zambia attacking down this right-hand side with number 12, Makwaza, Linus Makwaza. Still the Zambians trying to line up a shot, and we saw a few moments ago that they were willing to have a go when they got the position. Makinka got a shot in, and he's here on the ball again now. Makinka, free kick given by referee Sene of Senegal. He definitely is a homer coming from Senegal.
Chomba and Makinka are doing some good midfield work at the moment, and they're beginning to just get into Egyptian territory a little bit easier. There we see a fine ball, definitely a trip on Chomba after Makinka was slipping it through there. And we will see if they've got any explosion, variety, ideas, anything original at the free kicks.
Well, this one looks as though it will be taken by Melu, who's a big lad, and he's got to take quite a run up at this from my early observations of it. The wall, I'm not sure it's 10 yards yet by any means, but it's always interesting for managers, I know, to see what goes on at free kicks in World Cups and African Nations Championships. That's where something new can be formed. That's not a bad ball in, played across by Bawala. And again, he wanted to have a crack at goal straight away, and the Egyptians having to mass the ranks here in defence. And goalkeeper Shubir comes and gets a punch on it. And again, they're having a crack. Well, this is encouraging. You were saying, David, a few moments ago, you don't think there'll be many goals in the match, but at least Zambia have shown a willingness to try and hit the target.
That's right, it's good. It's they're getting forward and they're throwing bodies in there, and they've had 1 or 2 efforts. I think if Kalusha, or Bawala, as his real name is, I think in Belgium they certainly call him Kalusha, playing with Bobby Robson's PSV at the moment. If he can get on the ball, it looks as though he can create. Here he is taking his free kick. He's got a sweet left foot. Just watch the way he dips this behind the last Egyptian defender. Could be a very dangerous position.
And here it's curled in, but Egyptians getting enough bodies around, and once more there's a shot which goes wide, but it's the Egyptians who are suddenly finding themselves under pressure, and yet again it was that same player who had the shot, Makinka.
Now, sometimes players need to get a little bit of confidence by having a little bit of play in the opposition half, and the first time in the game now that Zambia have made some inroads and would feel now that they may be able to force the issue. I felt Egypt started off in command without having tremendous territorial advantage, but in the last few minutes Zambia are just beginning to push people forward. There you saw a good shot of the man-for-man marking at the back by Zambia, with the sweeper playing behind everyone else.
So here we are then, Group D of the African Nations Cup. 2 sides desperate, of course, to get through at least until the next stages. Only 3 countries in each group, and then we get through to the knockout stage. So it's possible, of course, just to play 2 matches and then you go home. If one side disappointed, 2 teams go through from each group. And with Ghana, the 3rd team in this group, it'd be a brave man indeed who would predict who would go through and who wouldn't. This free kick for Egypt. Was a lovely turn there by El Kas. He's got a good left foot, and he's played the ball here to Abdel Hamed. Good supporting work down the left-hand side by Ahmed Ramzi. And a vain appeal for a penalty, and quite rightly the referee turned that down. Couldn't possibly have handled it with any intention, I don't think. They're now putting the passes together a little bit better.
That was an outstanding bit of play, John. Good movement round the... After El Kas had spread the ball wide, there was good movement round the back. It was an excellent cross in. He took the volley with confidence. OK, it got blocked. But that was the first 3-man concerted move with good movement. where each ball was played accurately and simply and effectively. Good play by Egypt.
Good play indeed. They were reasonably impressive in the World Cup finals. You never felt they were going to score many goals, but defensively they were very well organised. And of course it all goes back to Mike Smith, the Welshman, who went over there to manage them and led them to their African nations triumph in 1986. He then got the sack when they didn't do so well the next time around. And indeed the coach of Egypt, El Gohari, was the man who took them to the World Cup finals. Then he got the sack as well. The German replaced him, and that German coach, who was from Eintracht Frankfurt, has since been replaced himself.
Yeah, it's a precarious business, John, but there's a couple of other Englishmen who did very well in Egypt. Mike Everett did well and was a club manager for several seasons there. And of course Richie Barker, the present Sheffield Wednesday coach, was also in Egypt for a spell, and he tells tales of the tremendous excitement and passion when the club games were being played. Strangely enough, in some countries in Africa, there's a greater passion and interest in the club rivalry than there is in the national rivalry. And of course, to a certain extent, it's the same in some European countries, because we've seen in Holland where a PSV Ajax game, for example, would have a tremendous interest, but almost blasé now. Holland will play some internationals where it's a job to count the crowd.
Absolutely. And then we have Abdel Ghani trying to get involved on Egypt's behalf, and he's got the corner kick. Interesting again to see what they do here, how many men they'll push into the penalty area. Cleared right from under the crossbar. I think it was Melu. And then put disappointingly behind for a goal kick.
I think there, John, a case of the pitch beating him, really. It bounced up and he tried to get it in first time. There we see the original shot that led to the corner. A little bit of a daisy cutter, wasn't it? Took a deflection. Obviously, Shabala knew that it was his job to stop it, and he knew that it'd come off his defender. Interesting to see that corner. I'll be looking for the next one. They didn't crowd the near post, which is a little bit surprising. They took an orthodox ball in. That's Kalasha.
Yes, there's your friend, or Bualaya, whichever we want to call him, David.
Not living up to my expectations.
No, not with his finishing anyway. He started the move nicely, and once again my friend Darby McKinker got involved. And the two of them look as lively as anybody, actually, but the finish, once again, brought a few sour faces on the bench. Very difficult game to predict, this one, though, because Zambia on the break look as though they might do something. Egypt certainly enjoyed the better of the first quarter of an hour in midfield. Very
slow pace, very cautious. There we see the Egyptians too. He's playing the ball steadily across the back, quite happy to go sideways and backwards, somewhat reluctant to throw the ball in there in the mixer to get it really forward. Trying to build, trying to be patient, very difficult on a bad surface.
The one player who seems to do things at pace for Egypt is El Kass, and he was the one again there who was sprinting forward. And good covering. The ball put out by Changwe. Egypt's throwing. Short to Abdel Hamid. Still there. He looks strong, Abdel Hamid. He's done well to wriggle his way between two defenders. And although the shot came in and was smothered by Chabala, the whistle had sounded, but now the referee has played an advantage anyway. Chabala finds Bualaya. Just had half an hour here in Senegal, and it's Egypt 0, Zambia 0. And, well, he nearly had the shirt taken off his back, but he's still retained possession for Zambia. That was Melu. They now are getting people forward. As Soko plays another ball wide, covered for Egypt by Hassan.
That was fine play out on the left by that gentleman there, Mr. Mawitma. Clever play, very strong shielding the ball. They're very strong, they know how to use their bodies and get around the ball when they're in tight situations.
Chase here for Abdelhamid, and that's good running off the ball by Abdelhamid once more, and the last man coming through was Ahmed Ramsey. There he is. He got 3 goals in the qualifiers. Breaks from a good deep position, and a fine bit of defending as well by Chomba.
Excellent defending. That was a well-contrived move, that, which definitely was a goal chance. Let's have a look at this corner now. See if they hit the long one. No one going near post. Yeah, there's a run near post, but still very few bodies around.
Wasn't bad though, because the Egyptians had a man at the back post in some space, and they keep it coming forward now, but to nobody in particular. Of course, the Zambians created quite a fuss during the Seoul Olympics in 1988 when they actually beat Italy 4-0. And I know that they don't always send the strongest sides to the Seoul Olympics, but the Italians did have a full professional team out there. I remember Virdis was certainly playing in the Italian side. They had some rather good players, and for them to lose 4-0 to Zambia was regarded as a bit of a national disaster.
It was an earthquake, wasn't it? It was an incredible result.
And of course, the West Germans also use the Olympic Games, don't they, to put some of their better players in. Remember, they had Hassler and Mill and some very good players. Flugler, I think, played. That's got to be a free kick, surely, against Makwaza. But the games that have been played so far, we know that the Cameroons won their opening game against Morocco by 1-0, and Nigeria won their opening match 2-1, and they looked a very useful side indeed, quite quick in beating Senegal, the home nation. So there has been some good football played. Oh, and this one might break down, and that's given Zambia a chance, but he's knocked it too far ahead of himself, really, there. That was Webby Chikabala, who didn't really take the advantage he might have done.
No, it was one of the rare occasions where we saw some hassling and harassing to enable Zambia to get half a chance there. There we see later on in the move that the foul that led to the free kick for Egypt. But in the first place, there was a little bit of pressure put on the ball. And I think the Zambians could well look at that and decide that they might want to pressure a little bit earlier. At the moment, they're giving Egypt too much respect when they get the ball at the back. They're not giving them any problems in possession.
They're probably going on reputation. But now it's that man, Walaya. Kalusha Walaya, who plays for PSV Eindhoven, and as David said, had a spell with Cercle Bruges to begin with. They'll be certainly looking to him as one of their more experienced players. Changui rolling the ball back. Coming up in support here is Soko. Bounced at an awkward height, and a brave head getting in the way there from El Kas. And he hits it long for Hassan, who takes it on the chest, and an excellent piece of defending again from Samuel Chomba. He looks a very good sweeper indeed on the early evidence of the match. Good tackler. Once again, knocked just that bit too far ahead by Mwitma.
Once again, the pitch playing tricks there, John. Yes, a superb challenge there by Chomba. Egypt look to me just a little bit more progressive from the midfield. They look as though they're a little bit more accurate with their diagonal passes. The more likely team to penetrate, I would feel, at this stage. They're getting behind, or they're attempting to get behind Zambia more effectively than Zambia. Zambia are playing quite well in possession, but they are playing basically in front of the Egyptian back line.
Still 0-0. In Ziguinchor, Group D. And the next match in this group will be played on Wednesday night when Ghana get themselves involved. Ghana have got some pretty good players as well. One named Pele, for example.
Yeah, had a fine season, eh?
At Monaco, he certainly has. And that's just going to run through to the keeper. A little bit of a shove by Soko, but the referee didn't think it was too much. Lampite also, of course, for Ghana as well. Every wonder boy.
That's right, everyone's going to be fascinated by this one, and we've heard so much about him. Only 17 years of age. There's some fine work too, fine individual skill.
Once more, we've got to say, it's this pitch that is posing some problems. Nobody seems to know where on earth the ball is going to end up. Well, it's such a shame that a major competition is played on a surface like this one. Yes, this is a major competition. Only the South American Championships are older, incidentally. Even the European Nation Championships are more juvenile, younger than this one. So Egypt once again trying to build through the midfield. Player coming up on the left-hand side, searching for it, was Gamal Abdul Hamid. He takes the throw-in. And it's a bit of a lottery, really, wherever it bounces. Who's going to get to the ball first, and will they be able to direct it? Just pumped forward by Ragab. Turning away is Ibrahim Hassan, and now this is Youssef. Good build-up down the right, involving Hassan once more, and he's turned his man nicely, and then lays not the best of balls in, which produces the header, which carries the ball wide. Al-Kas.
It's a good jump, and certainly now one can perceive that as a tactic of Egypt, to get the ball into the box, to try and out-head the Zambian defence. Whether they've seen that is the Achilles heel or of the Zambian team, I wouldn't know, but certainly it's a sensible move, because if one gets the ball out wide and one attempts to make too many passes on this pitch, the law of averages says that despite the skill that one might have, it will break down. I have to say, the direct route, once you get it out wide, look at that pass, really difficult to control. Fine control, but very difficult to control.
And therefore it takes the sting out of the attack straight away.
And it takes the sting out of the attack, John. But if you get that ball wide, get it into that box, it might sound direct, it might sound simplistic, but these conditions suggest the remedy is route one a little bit, and that would be completely foreign to these players playing in this tournament. They wouldn't have been brought up that way. They would find it very difficult to change their style. But I'm afraid it's going to need one or two balls humped into that box, to put it in the most crude fashion.
Just 5 minutes to half-time. Egypt 0, Zambia 0. And the man winning the ball for Zambia was Dabi Makinka. And all the way back to Chabala. As we said earlier, he plays for Argentinos Juniors, and you wouldn't have thought a few years ago that an Argentine club would have come looking in Africa for players. They might look in Spain, but you would have thought they'd have looked in Africa. Shows how the world game has changed and spread its wings.
I think Portuguese clubs have benefited particularly from players from West Africa, and when Eusebio first emerged around the '66 World Cup, or just before the '66 World Cup, many good English judges were saying that the emerging players will come from this continent. And of course some of them, because of climatic conditions, would find it difficult possibly to come to certain European countries. But that doesn't mean to say they're not without great skills, and in the heat and their style of play can be very, very talented.
Oh, that Benfica side was marvellous. Mario Coluna, of course, was another one. And certainly had a number of Angolans and players from Mozambique in Portugal. But for the moment, we're watching Egypt on the attack. Down the left-hand side with Ahmed Ramzi. Now, Bassam Hussein. Known as the Pharaohs, not surprisingly, Egypt. But, at the moment, they're unable to conjure up a goal. Zambia defending quite well against them, and particularly impressive Samuel Chomba, their sweeper, who's got in one or two telling tackles. He doesn't have to do for the moment. Disappointment for Ismail Youssef, unable to keep that ball in play. He's one who played in all 3 matches in 1988 when the championships were held in Morocco. Well, it's a willing chase, but an unavailing one by the look of it. And a free kick conceded at the end of it.
There's real quality in the way Ragab took that ball away from Makwazi there. It was really very skillful, but unfortunately we hope he hasn't turned an ankle. But of course, once again we revert to talking about the conditions, and if the pitch is bumpy and ridged, then it's quite likely that players have a greater chance of turning an ankle. There he is coming away with that ball. There you are. He wasn't touched. It was Makwaza that challenged him, but that didn't cause his injury. But he appears to be all right.
Something people forget. They talk about dangerous pitches and usually think of frozen pitches, but a surface like this can be just as bad. Egypt 0, Zambia 0. 2 minutes to go to half-time. And the man on the ball is perhaps the most talked about player of the Egyptian side, Hani Ramsey. I think a number of English clubs were quite interested in taking him after the last World Cup. And here he goes downfield. Now plays for Neuchâtel Xamax in Switzerland. He settled in well there too. Rated the top sweeper in Switzerland last season. Nice little push forward by Regab, who shows he's fit enough. And Ismail Youssef will be awarded a free kick for the challenge by Makinka on him. So I wonder, with less than 30 seconds of the half left before you move into time added on, whether Egypt can get some reward for their efforts. He certainly whipped his leg away from him. And referee Sene was right on the spot. He's been right on the spot for everything so far.
Yes, there's been very little of any real discussion in terms of challenging, particularly around the box. What can they make of this?
They can make a left-footed shot, which is straight at goalkeeper Chibala, and no more than that. And it would look to me as though Zambia are going to come through this first half totally unscathed. The most exciting moment certainly was when Hassan wrapped the crossbar with that shot, which the goalkeeper fingertipped onto the bar. But apart from that, it's pretty ordinary.
Yeah, Egypt using diagonal balls to try and penetrate. I always have the feeling that Egypt might be able to grab a goal from an aerial ball. Zambia, a lot of good skill on the ball, but finding it difficult to get beyond the last line of Egyptian defence.
This might be their last chance of the half, as Shubir comes and claims. He's around about the 30 mark now, Ahmed Shubir. That has certainly proved his value to Egypt over the years. Some of the African goalkeepers, of course, in the last couple of years have proved very spectacular indeed. Thomas Nkono, of course, from Cameroon. Joseph Antoine Bell from the same country. Settled in well in French football, proved their worth. And it's Zambia who are ending the half on the attack, and this is a good move. And they've got inside the Egyptian penalty area. Good tackle once more by Hani Ramsey, though. And there's going to be a yellow card here. Well, the referee saw more than I did then.
Well, it certainly shouldn't be for Ramsey on that challenge, and I'm sure it isn't, because that was a splendid challenge.
Looks so, it might be Youssef.
Yeah, as the attack developed, there may have been... Here we see that. Well, there's certainly nothing wrong with that.
I think Youssef probably said something to the referee. Oh, it's Yakem. Oh, well, there you are. That just shows we know nothing. So it's 0-0, and it looks like staying 0-0 as well, as the stretcher bearers are out yet again. What a good piece of defending this is, however, by that man, Ramsey. It's like Alf used to be.
Yes, cool and calculating, and I don't know if he took elocution lessons. Very fine England manager and a leader of men.
Once again, the stretcher bearers go away redundant, empty-handed apart from the actual stretcher. Now, what's the referee going to give here, having awarded a yellow card to Yaken? It should restart with a throw-in, I reckon, because there was nothing wrong with Ramsey's challenge. And we're waiting for the half-time whistle, and that's it. And I think it's got to be said an ordinary first half, David.
Yes, I think in defence of both sets of players, difficult conditions, bobbly ball, certainly not a flat surface. Egypt trying to penetrate with one or two balls into the box. A lack of goal-scoring opportunities at the moment. I think we can see the game open out a little bit more during this second period.
Thanks very much, David. Well, we shall have the second half for you live here. It's 0-0 between Egypt and Zambia.
Welcome back to Senegal. We're in the southern provincial capital of Ziguinchor, and at half-time, unfortunately, no goals really to talk about here in the interval. Egypt and Zambia in this first match for both nations from Group D. At the moment, just rather feeling each other out, and perhaps the Egyptians looking as if they need a game to really get into this tournament. Zambia, I'm sure, will be more than happy with that position here at half-time. Zambia, incidentally, finished in 3rd place in Algeria a couple of years ago. That was their best ever finish in the history of this tournament, while Egypt have won the tournament 3 times. Winners inaugurally in 1957 and then again in 1959. So just a couple of real chances in the first half. The closest to a goal from Egypt's Hassan, with one against the crossbar, but I think we can see the keeper there certainly got a touch on the ball. Comes in from long range, the fullback, no doubt there that the Zambian keeper made a crucial touch there onto the woodwork. And a flashing left footer at the other end from Makinka, who's looked fairly comfortable on the ball when coming forward. Zambia then neat in their approach play, but lacking the cutting edge when getting close to the 18-yard line. 2 goal attempts for either side. Zambia leading the foul count, but it certainly hasn't been a dirty half at all. And we had just the 1 yellow card there just before the break to the Egyptian side, and that was Yakin, who fell foul of the referee. So both sides have something to prove in the second period as night falls rapidly here in this part of southern Senegal. Just to remind you, you're watching the 18 African Nations Cup over the next couple of weeks here on Screen Sport. And later on this evening, we'll have highlights of a Group C match taking place today between the holders Algeria in Group C, kicking off the campaign in defence of their trophy, against Ivory Coast. And of course, we'll also have the highlights from this game, Egypt and Zambia as well, to round out tonight's package for you. Tomorrow, we're in Group B for Morocco against Zaire. Our first look at the Zaire side, Morocco, who have already lost in the opening encounter to Cameroon, cannot afford another defeat. Big game tomorrow night in Group B for Morocco, and our first look at Zaire coming your way at 6:30, live and exclusive here on Screen Sport, the only channel for this major soccer tournament, coming to you for the very first time from host nation Senegal. Now a little bit of history for you. What were you doing back in 1959? I know David alongside me can certainly remember who took part in the cup final that year. It would be hard for him to remember. It was Nottingham Forest who beat Luton Town at Wembley, but in 1959 over in Cairo, these were the scenes as Egypt took the trophy for the second time. And indeed, I can actually tell you the goal scorers as well. Don't say we don't educate you on this program, as well as entertaining. The goal scorers from Egypt, Issam with a couple, 1 in each half, and they were beating Sudan here in the darker strip. That's one of the goals from Issam. Not a great performance there by the Sudanese keeper. And it finished 2-1. Just 3 nations taking part, incidentally. It was Egypt, Ethiopia and Sudan. Those scenes from Cairo back in 1959, and how the African Nations Cup has grown since then. And we've already heard John Helm today telling us just how Walter Winterbottom felt the future of world football lay in this continent. And we've got some great stars as well for you to look forward to in the matches coming up this week. Next week we go into a knockout phase of the tournament. The 12 nations divided into 4 groups of 3. 2 will qualify from each group. The Cameroon are off to a win, as indeed they were 2 years ago in Italia 90. And what could have been a tricky game for them against Morocco, it all came good thanks to that first half goal from Kanabiyik in 23 minutes. And the pre-tournament favourites there had the travelling Cameroon fans on their feet as they got off to an important win. Still chance, of course, for Morocco to join them in the next phase, but Cameroon certainly already looking well on their way to making it into the knockout phase in week 2. That's the long throw, helped on by Oman Biek, the Cameroon target man, and his brother at the back post to convert the only goal of the game. But how close Morocco came to an equaliser at the start of the second half. And that's fine goalkeeping by Bell, as the Moroccans came close to an equaliser. Yesterday evening in the Friendship Stadium in Senegal, it was the Senegalese going down to Nigeria, who are here in the green, taking the lead through Samson Sia after 13 minutes of the first half. And indeed, Nigeria might well have had a penalty before that goal went in. Long ball played in over the top. Great run here from the Nigerian number 9. Wonderful first touch. The boy who plays his club soccer with Lokeren in Belgium, and he's clearly learned a thing or two about strong surging runs through the middle like that, holding off the defender and getting a cross shot beyond the Senegalese keeper into the bottom corner. That was a lead that Nigeria held until 6 minutes before the break, and then an uncharacteristic error from defender Stephen Keshi. 2 attempts to clear the ball and eventually landing at the feet of Bokande. And the man who plays for Lens in the French First Division fires home a simple equaliser. Senegal, who've never won this tournament, back to 1-1 at half-time, really must have fancied their chances, because at this stage in the game, Bokande was causing the Nigerian defence all sorts of problems. He could easily have had a hat-trick. That was the one that did go in just before the break. And coming into the second half, you really would have fancied Senegal, with the crowd behind them, to have gone on and taken the 2 points. But that's not how it turned out in the second half. Just 1 goal to settle the issue, and it came on 88 minutes. A fine goal as well it was. Well worked here by the Nigerians, and atoning for his earlier mistake, Stephen Keshi up with the attack. And any manager will tell you, very hard to hit those balls as they come across you in the penalty area. We can see again from behind the goal, sweet timing as he swings the left foot and puts the ball unstoppably into the top corner of the net. And that's what the Senegal bench thought of that. 2-1 then it was to Nigeria in Group A. We're back live with the action here from Ziguinchor, about to get underway at the start of the second half. And just to remind you, the scoreline: Egypt 0, Zambia 0. John Helm and David Pleat with you for the whole of the second half.
Welcome back to Ziguinchor. It's Egypt 0, Zambia 0. And I think that's just about the right scoreline. You've timed the comeback absolutely perfectly. The team's out, as you see, ready to kick off. The Senegal referee, Senor Sene. Well, he's taking a long time about getting the half underway, and I'm not quite sure why, but he's got a problem out here. Now, they've had people out marking the pitch.
They've been powdering the lines, haven't they, John? I wonder if they've finished powdering them. It's very unusual for us to see this. Rather than the lines being painted on, there's a groundsman with a bucket of powder, and he's getting handfuls of the stuff out the bucket and just splattering it over the lines. And if you analyse that line closely across the halfway line, many people would say that's not too straight.
It's been done by a fellow who had a pint or two last night, I think. You're not thinking of introducing powder at Kenilworth Road, David, I hope?
No, we've got another powder. Puff up front, it's called.
OK, Zambia white shirts, black shorts, attacking the goal to the left, and Egypt red shirts and white shorts in possession now with Ibrahim Hassan, who had the best shot of the first half, a cracker, which goalkeeper Chibale managed to fingertip against the crossbar. I do apologise, there is just a slight interference on your vision. It's nothing we can do about that, I'm afraid, but I hope it doesn't spoil your enjoyment of the game here. And the first man we see in action on Zambia's behalf is Kalusha Bolaya. from PSV Eindhoven. And down again goes an Egyptian, and the Senegalese referee has to come over to inquire about Ibrahim Hassan's health. Gave a few chances. And for anybody who might just have switched on, we've got to say a contributory cause to that has been the state of the pitch here in Ziguinchor. The African Nations Cup is being played only in 2 centres, in Dakar and here in the south of Senegal. There was considerable jubilation in this city when it was announced that they were to stage matches played in Group D. It was a real feather in the cap. I hope you can pick up the drumbeat as we can. But at the moment, neither side has got a lot to really celebrate at 0-0. Egypt would hope to get off to a winning start. Zambia, if they're to break their duck and win the African Nations Cup for the first time in their history, would want a win against Egypt too. It's Egypt on the attack. El Kass was the player trying to work his way through. On the ball is Makinka, and he's good on the ball as well, and he's willing to go quite a distance with it. And inside that penalty area, Makinka's in there, and so was Chikabala, both hustling for it. But the referee hasn't had any problems at all in this match so far.
I think we can see Chikabala, Mwita and certainly Kalusha pushing on this half and really trying to get at the Egyptian defence. Both teams are playing deep. I don't think we've had one offside decision in the game so far. Plenty of room in midfield, room to run the ball. What we need to see is some clever play around the box, deep, near the edge of the box, where someone can turn and get in a shot.
Yes, I've not seen as much of Abdel Ghani as I thought I might have done. He's one of the more experienced players for Egypt. He plays his football in Portugal with Beira-Mar, but he's not really featured. Here comes Zambia. Hassan, nice little back heel. That was good football, and Hassan tries to go. That's a lovely touch inside from Abdul Hamid to Hassan. The move breaking down, but that's the best move we've seen certainly in this second half, and there was just one in the first half, which again Egypt strung together. The ball now with Walaya. Always try to play to the rhythm. Ibrahim Hassan. Now twin brothers, Ibrahim and Hossam. And that is Hossam challenging for it now. And once again, this tall fellow at the back, the sweeper, Samuel Chomba, works his way out of trouble and then has to scuttle back again as Hassan tries to put pressure on the Zambian defence. And it will be an Egyptian throw-in. But Samuel Chomba has certainly served his side well in this game.
Started off in midfield, didn't he? And then very quickly went to the back of the defence. He's a towering figure. He's a 6'3" man. And they look very strong, but one doesn't know until they've really been tested in the air whether they like it up there. And I still believe that Egypt's best bet is going to be to get that ball wide and to throw 1 or 2 in the box and see how brave this goalkeeper, Shabala, is, and the fellow defenders.
Shabala it was who bowled it out. Down that right side to Mwitma. Turned it out wide again by Molenga, who plays for the Nkana Red Devils. There's a Red Devils in every country. Wherever you go, there's bound to be a Red Devils. Manchester United in England, of course. Get that ball just bobbling around hopelessly for a player to control. It really must be a bit of a nightmare. Headed strongly forward towards the edge of the Egypt penalty area. And now laid back to Hassan. Threaded his way between 2 defenders and plays it out wide here for Youssef. Now Youssef trying to get to the edge of the Zambian penalty area. Turns it wide for Hassan. And the defender coming across was Molenga.
That was a good move. Youssef using Hassan on the wide outside. Desperately needed an early cross, but he was into a good crossing position. I'm sure they might have benefited from that. But if they can overload wide and get 1 or 2 forwards into deep attacking crossing positions, I still feel that they may be the beneficiaries of that.
Yes, Egypt have looked the more formidable side and more formulated in their attacks. That's a strange cross, dealt with capably by Chabala. But he's put the ball straight out of play. That's one thing I've noticed in English football this season. What a difference Schmeichel, the goalkeeper for Manchester United, has made with his superb throw-outs. I mean, he can throw a ball way over the halfway line, and usually accurately as well.
Well, it's a gift, it's vision. Able to size up the situation quickly. I think Mislosko, the goalkeeper at West Ham, has it too. Paul Cooper, now retired, comes to mind. Very good at using the ball, particularly when it's coming from the opposite flank. And of course, with the pace prevalent in football nowadays, it can set defence into attack in a second.
Something we commented on in the first half, David, there, the problem of handling the ball, and Hani Ramsey was guilty on that occasion. And this is a good position for Zambia. We might see what they can do at free kicks now. 30 yards out. Goalkeeper Ahmed Shubir from the Al Akli club, and way over the top. Never any danger of that hitting the target.
Well, I have to say, John, the wall makes a mockery there, and the referee is at fault. He's a Senegalese, is he, the referee?
Yes.
He's at fault there. I mean, the wall wasn't 10 yards, and if I was advising the Zambian forwards on the next kick and I was coach, I would be saying, do not take that kick until you're convinced that they are the yardage that you need, or else you can't possibly get the elevation and the swerve that one needs, because the barrier is too close to the ball.
Interesting point made by David Pleat there, but we'd rather be talking about goals here. At the moment we've got none, and there haven't been many signs of getting one either. There's nice control again from Ibrahim Hassan. He's a good player. He's one of those now earning his living in Switzerland. Zambia's getting men around the ball, and once again it was Derby Makinka. Here's Bwalaya, and he's got past one or two people tonight, and you can see why he does pose problems. He's awkward as much as anything. Lays the ball in field this time. Gets it back as well from Melu. He's confident on the ball, no question about that.
Very quick.
And the Zambians, of course, will gain confidence the longer the game goes on. Perhaps they started as second favourites in this match, although their recent form has not been that bad at all, losing just one of their 6 qualifying ties. Their 52nd Nations Cup game, while Egypt are playing in it for the 70th time. They've played more matches than any other country in the African Nations Cup. A little flick through was aimed at Hossam Hassan. Well, you were talking about route 1 in the first half, and Zambia certainly opted for route 1 then. It's backwards and forwards. It's I nearly mentioned the name Wimbledon there. I have to be very careful, but I'm thinking of Wimbledon tennis, of course.
Yes, there was a bit of toing and froing there, wasn't there? And the ball was in the air over the net, if we equate it with tennis.
Bwalaya. Oh, that's a nice ball through the middle, trying to open Egypt up here, and Melu having to turn and check and play it back to Makinka. And there will be a free kick this time. Conceded by Yaken. Yaken, in fact, got a yellow card in the first half. The referee going and having words with the pair of them. And, indirect free kick awarded. Yeah,
slightly unfortunate. Definite obstruction, though. Chiwenga really having a go at him there, and Yaken fouling him. And this is a good position. If it's difficult to get clear chances, for sure set pieces, if you're well organised, you do have a chance.
Bwalaya with the free kick for Zambia, looking for the first goal. Very flat and disappointing, that. Makinka plays it back to him. Bwalaya in sharply was the defender Hassan that time. In fact, it's Youssef. Very fresh-faced lad, Ismail Youssef from Zamalek, who scored in the 2-2 draw against Tunisia in Cairo. Nobody's scored on this night, but here's a chance for Bwalaya. just couldn't get it through the forest of legs that were presented in front of him. Zambia not having a bad spell at the moment. A real old gallop down that right touchline by Timothy Mwitwa. He's got the corner kick.
Yeah, beginning to force the pace. That free kick led to that long throw, and that's possibly the best chance that they had, that came from a long throw. And if they could have just forced the issue there, or got that lucky bounce, or a luckier bounce in the box, Egypt could have easily found themselves a goal down. But once again now, corner, further pressure for Egypt.
Further pressure indeed. Mwitwa with the corner, and again straight against the defender. Well, it's a back pass which Shubir has managed to keep in play. So Egypt protect their goal at 0-0. There was the ball laid back confidently by Yaka.
That's really an excellent save by Shubir. That looked all over a corner, and he's grabbed that ball with real athleticism. Fine save.
But one of the beauties of the Egyptian national side over the years is that basically they've been drawn from two clubs, and they're used to playing together week in, week out. Now, of course, they have three players playing together for Neuchâtel Xamax in Switzerland, but the rest are basically from Zamalek and Al Ahly, so they should have a good combination.
Egypt need to be more adventurous. I feel that they've allowed Zambia to take the first moments of this half, to seize the initiative. Zambia certainly are pushing more players forward. Their forward players now are tighter to the Egyptian defenders when the Egyptian defenders have possession of the ball. And because it's a difficult pitch and not easy to pass the ball, it's become even more difficult for Egypt, because they haven't got the time now to look up and to see their targets.
That's Al Gohari, the coach of Egypt, and that was the criticism levelled at him in the World Cup, that his teams weren't adventurous enough.
Yes, well, they only got one goal. They played very well, but they only got one goal, and if memory serves me right, it may have been a penalty.
It was a penalty. It was indeed a penalty. Scored by Abdul Ghani, who is playing in this match, number 8. We're getting nowhere very far in the game at the moment. Hossam Hassan is down clutching his ankle. It can certainly score goals, but yeah, he felt the full weight of that tackle from Melou. Yet again, out comes the stretcher. And what are your bets on it being used?
Well, they look more like soldiers than medical men to me, John, but you can see that again there. I looked as though he may even have been winded there. He's gone down holding his leg. My bet would be in favour of him getting up, hopefully scoring a quick goal, becoming a national hero overnight and setting the game alight. But yeah, it's a bit dramatic, I think. Of course, we know this chappie well, and of course Celtic will know to their cost how well he did against them in the European tie this season. Of course, he was signed by an English gentleman called Roy Hodgson, who's done very well out in Switzerland with Neuchâtel Xamax, and of course he's now been given and appointed the Swiss team manager, and I'm sure his colleagues who knew him from Lilleshall and his days in England coaching will all wish him well.
Yes, he's taken over from Stielicke as the manager of Switzerland, and the first substitution of the match, and the player coming off is Webi Chikabala, and it's Gibi Mabasela who comes on. I'm sure you can tell me all about him, David.
Well, Gibby's an Irish name, actually, John, and there's a very famous coach called Gibby Mackenzie from Portadown, who was a real character, who used to go on these coaching courses at Lilleshall.
Actually, I was half joking. I can actually tell you something about Gibi Mabasela. He's 22. He plays for the Nkana Red Devils. He made his debut for his country in 1989, and he was the Footballer of the Year for his country last year. So they were expecting a lot of him, but he didn't make the starting lineup. Now there's a break on for Zambia, and they might well be looking to this substitute. Quickly into the action. Tall, rangy lad. Well, the game certainly needs an introduction of something. Perhaps he's the one to give us it.
Well, you've certainly given plenty of information, John, on him.
You've got to give them a big build-up, David. Just hope that they live up to the reputation. There he is now, and he's done something with it. He's hoiked it into the centre. Bwalaya had scored a goal for Zambia. And Kalusha Bwalaya celebrates. I think the Egyptians felt there might have been a handball, and they complain bitterly about it, but the Senegalese referee is taking no notice of them for the moment. And with his very first touch, really, an important touch anyway, the substitute, Mabasela, provided the cross, and Bwalaya provided the finish to go with it.
Well, dare we say, John, or dare I say that we kind of predicted that a goal might come from that kind of humped ball. I think that was the word I used. Pushed into the middle there, came down off his hand there, Kalusha, and he forced the ball in. Most untidy, not a nice goal. They all count, and I'm quite sure that at this moment in Zambia there'll be plenty of celebrations. Sometimes it doesn't matter how they come, but they've got to come, and it will open the game up. Egypt slightly unfortunate to be behind, but a goal coming in the manner which, if you like, befits the lack of opportunity for either side to put concerted passing moves together.
That is certainly going to lift Zambia. He's here again as well. Bwalaya getting into the Egyptian penalty area, and that was dangerous, certainly. Well, it's a moot point always in a penalty area situation, whether the ball strikes the hand, especially on this surface as well, or whether he actually projected his arm. Let's have another look. The important thing to remember is that Zambia are in front. The referees allowed this goal. It was Mabasela's cross, the humped ball that David Pleat was talking about. Bwalaya underneath it. Well, maybe he didn't certainly intend to handle up the ball. Maybe it struck the arm more than anything, and that's the way the referee has seen it.
Certainly Ibrahim Hassan will be disappointed, because he appeared to stop him. Just dwelt as the ball dropped down, and that could turn out to be a suicidal move by him. He seemed as though he was looking to accept the referee's decision for handball as the ball dropped down, and seemed to almost act with disdain and almost not attempt to make a challenge as it was poked into the net. But poked it was, and that's an important goal.
Important goal indeed, and Zambia, as you said, they will be celebrating. They're known as the KK11, after Kenneth Kaunda, of course, the president of Zambia. And celebrations are plenty, I'm sure, in that country for the moment. But for Egypt, a bit of a national disaster if they lose to Zambia, that's for sure. They'll have a real old battle on against Ghana in their second match. And no doubt, well, that's El Gohari, who replaced Dietrich Weisser, the former Eintracht Frankfurt coach, in his second spell. On the other hand, Zambia's coach, who's known as Zoom Ndlovu, will be very, very pleased with life at the moment. You can see another contract coming up.
Just looking at that long throw there, I think the message did get through at half-time. You know, if you can't make your passes, if you can't control the ball easily, then get it into that box and let's play the percentage game and let's see if we can get a knockdown. And Egypt there learning possibly from their opponents who've just scored a goal in slightly similar fashion.
Egypt 0, Zambia 1, and that, we have to say, goes down as an inspired substitution by the manager, the coach, because he played his part, did Mabasela, in creating the goal.
Well, he said he would give me something.
Here are Zambia, once more. Clearance this time by Hani Ramsey. Nicely taken down. It's good play by Abdul Hamid. Once more, nice check. The crowd like that from Chomba. Showed good awareness, good technical skills as well. But they'll have to defend now. El Kas. We've not seen a lot of him, really, in the first half, just on a couple of occasions. He looked as though he might be menacing. He was doing things at pace, which not everybody on this pitch is. But he's gone quiet in the second half. And for all their pressure, really, in the first half, Egypt didn't really create many chances. The one they did have was the shot against the bar, and that was a snap effort from something like 25 yards.
Yes, that's right, John. Although the game's being played over long distances now, and neither side are compressing the midfield space, I feel that as the game wears on, there'll be a few tired players out there, and that could produce mistakes, and maybe mistakes, as we know, lead to goals. Egypt will certainly have to really force the issue. They will feel disappointed that they haven't been able to manufacture a good chance.
Well, Al-Ghahari has made his change. He's taken off Gamal Abdel Hamid and replaced him with Abd El Azim. It's Zambia still coming and looking, with Makinka trying to force his way through. Again, the bobbling ball didn't help him. And once more, tidying up at the back is Samuel Chomba. He's been as impressive as anybody. You can see the confidence flooding through Zambia now as they pass the ball around with some arrogance. Cammy Ramsey. Egypt need a goal quickly to get back into this match. They're struggling. That was Abdel Ghani's little short ball to the substitute, El Azim. El Azim, the substitute, number 14 for Egypt. But it's Egypt 0, Zambia 1 here in Ziguinchor in Senegal. The 18th African Nations Cup, and Egypt have got their chance here. Ibrahim Hassan. And good goalkeeping. Chibala spotted the danger, came from his line, and Hassan just couldn't get in. And the first real sign of danger for Egypt in this half, really.
Yes, Chibala had to be really alert there. It's a good ball in, a deep ball, and there we see Hassan getting across the face of Malenga with that effort on goal. Excellent ball, early ball, diagonal into the box. Difficult one for defenders to deal with.
And again, Boualaya, who is regarded as very much the star of this team, showing his footwork, his skills. He's very comfortable on the ball.
He's very quick, he's very sharp, and I have seen a couple of Dutch games this season where he's come on as substitute, and particularly when players get tired, he's really got lightning pace.
Look at that, Zambia getting players around the ball. There were 3 or 4 of them there hunting for it. They all want the ball now, and that's got to be a good sign for them. Played wide by Melou, and he almost played it into the path of Hassan, which would not have been advisable.
It's the old story, John. If they retain their lead, and if they keep the lead for 10 or 15 minutes, they will look fitter, they should look better. The goal breeds confidence. All of a sudden, people will want the ball. They're in a winning situation, and they will look fitter, they will look quicker, they will look stronger, because a goal in front always gives you that half a yard.
Absolutely. Abdel Ghani finding the substitute, El Azim. Free kick for Egypt. And again, referee Sané is right there. He doesn't seem to have been more than 5 yards from the ball all night. He's a very fit referee.
Yeah, it's always easier to referee a game, particularly when it's basically a short passing game. And certainly from back to front, the ball hasn't been hit too long, and he's able to get there. And there's a save by Chibala. Very bad marking by the Zambian defence, and I think it was Hassan who'll be very, very disappointed that we shall see that again, no doubt, in a minute. But that's a good position, direct from a free kick, one ball in. I have to say, poor marking, an opportunity wasted.
Certainly was, and Hossam Hassan will be disappointed not to have got his name on the score sheet there, because it was no more than 5 yards out, and he got a right boot to it. Here it is, and the goalkeeper, Chibala, has done his job well again. It's one of those that either goes in or it doesn't, wasn't it, really?
Yes, it's a hurried effort, and I'm sure he wasn't too aware of his situation. He did have time to get hold of that ball and assess the fact that there was only one opponent, Chibala at that, the goalkeeper, between him and the net, and that will turn out to be the best opportunity, unless they can conjure something in the last 20 minutes of this game.
There goes Eston Malenga, and he's gone through the middle as well. It almost found him again. A very positive, confident run by Malenga. 20 minutes of the second half to go, and Zambia leading Egypt by 1-0. Abdel Ghani brought down, and another free kick for Egypt. One thing he'll be sure, they won't mind giving away free kicks.
No, I was just going to make the point, John, that you know, they'll have played tournaments against European sides, and they know they're holding on to a lead now, and if they have to obstruct in the middle of the field, I'm afraid we have to expect that, and they'll do that. They won't want Egypt to build any rhythm. difficult though it is to build any rhythm at all on a surface such as this. But Zambia have got a spring in their step, and Egypt really now have got to force the issue.
They have indeed. And El Azim couldn't keep the ball in play. So it will be a Zambian throw-in, and they'll slow things down, and a bit of time wasting. They just, by chance, happened not to roll the ball to the fellow where he was standing. Throw-in is by Changwe. Has a first name of Whiteson. Funny how they name the Christian names of some of these players. There's one player in the squad whose first name is Sunday. I wonder what day he was born on. Free kick, Zambia. Roll to the edge of the area. And here's the substitute. Mabasela. Walaya. They look to him to create some openings, I'm sure, but going down the touchline is Changwe, and retaining possession nicely as well. And then a rather horrid cross on the end of it all. He didn't look comfortable at all in that situation. Never much danger of him pulling the ball back, I don't think. And El Gohari has a problem on his hands here, the Egyptian coach. And he looks anxious.
Yes, he looks more than anxious. I think that at this moment...
Oh, my word, what's going on here? That's no goal, surely.
No,
Sorry to break you off, David.
Sorry, yeah, he's intercepted that ball in the box. The ball never got out of the box. We were talking about the anxiety there, and he'll be disappointed at the moment with the scoreline. They've got to keep going forward. They've got to put the ball into the box. But they're playing against a side now who have got a little bit more self-belief.
Here's Hassan. Fairly belts the ball downfield, but again the whistle has sounded, and perhaps that was an offside. I think you were commenting earlier, we hadn't had one offside decision in the game. I think that's the first one almost. So, here we have it, and there was never any danger of this being allowed to stand.
The ball, of course, has to come all the way outside the box before it can be first played.
The manager knows the rules.
Well, I mean, it just shows the enthusiasm there of the Zambia players.
That's right, but now they lose the ball. Given away to El Azim, and Hassan, who's had one crack at goal in this game, and a good one it was too. Can't quite find El Kas. Once again, it's Chomba who's over there, doing his job very well. Abdel Hamid. Abdel Ghani. And breaking down because of the persistence of Mwitma. When they do break, they break quite quickly, and Mwitma's gone on here. Flicks it across the penalty area, and the ball could honestly bounce anywhere for any of those crosses. As it happened on that occasion, it was snaffled by Egypt, and they come away themselves through Youssef. Once more, there seem to be so many white shirts, they're getting bodies around the ball.
Yeah, we just saw a most impressive run by Mwitna there, and when Ramsey came across, he delayed his pass to the exact moment, put Ramsey out of the game with a 1-2, got the ball the other side, the goal side of the defender, and unfortunately for Mwitna, the cross was intercepted. But that was really good play. It's one thing having the pace to accelerate, it's knowing where and when to accelerate, and he did that first class.
He did, and Zambia stay in front by 1-0. Egypt have only missed one finals since the first ones in 1957. 17 out of 18 they've played in, and after the death of Anwar Sadat, they didn't play because of political problems with Libya. But apart from that, they've featured in every single finals. Zambia relatively new to the competition, but relatively successful at the moment.
I think if it stays the same, John, I think we would consider it somewhat of a shock result, but probably no more maybe than Nigeria getting that fine result last night against the host nation. But it adds a flavour to the competition when in the first games there's a surprise.
Yes, it certainly does. a la the World Cup finals last time around, and Cameroon 1, Argentina 0. Here's Youssef for Egypt. This game is not over yet by any means. Egypt trying to pep up the game a little bit, as we see, but on the break now is Makwaza. Not a good pass that time, and Ragab able to mop things up for Egypt.
Was the point you were making, John, that the Argentinians got over that shock result and went on to play in a final, although a much maligned team?
Yeah, quite honestly, I think the worst final I've ever seen as well. But there we go. West Germany, as they were, won it. We do apologise, by the way, for the slight break-up on your pictures, something we have no control over here. But there's good work by Hassan down on the dead ball line, although he pulled it back. Zambia yet again had those bodies around when they were needed. The Zambian coach is Sam Zoom Nudlovo. I'm not quite sure if that is how you pronounce the surname, but there is a player of exactly the same name at Coventry City.
I think the name is pronounced Endlove, but we will have to consult our friends at Coventry City.
Well, no doubt Don Howe will advise us. He says we're going to make our dreams come true. Well, he's well on the way to the first part of his dream coming true. The ball is nodded back to Shubir.
I think it's far from over, John. I sense the Egyptians getting more people into the box, and you know, it wouldn't surprise me, and it's very difficult to predict, but when you're playing on these difficult conditions around the box, it wouldn't surprise me if someone has a go at a defender and falls or gets tripped, however you want to define it. I could foresee a penalty if Egypt get enough balls into the box and they get bodies in there.
They're being tested themselves at the moment with Mwitma. He's kept foraging away, hasn't he? And the free kick conceded by Yaken, who was booked in the first half. It's going to be a real test of the composure of the Zambians, who find themselves in front, perhaps unexpectedly. Almost 6 of one and half a dozen of the other.
That's a classic shot, isn't it? A classic case of really...
Chances, and Shubir making the stop. Sorry, David, but it was almost 2-0.
Yes, it was a snapshot there, and I was saying, oh, that was a classic shot, really, of a free kick not necessarily being justified, where none of the players thought that there was a free kick, and they were all surprised when the referee gave it.
Egypt 0, Zambia 1 in Ziguinchor in Senegal. The 18th African Nations Cup being brought to you live on Screen Sport for the first time. Something of a surprising scoreline to many people, certainly, bearing in mind Egypt getting through to the last World Cup finals and acquitting themselves reasonably well there too. And here was this little snapshot. It was put in by Melu. Shubir made the save. And time just beginning to run out. It's always awkward when you've only got sort of quarter of an hour to go and you're a goal behind and things are just not happening for you. You need a break, a bit of slice of luck, don't you, at a stage like that? And tenacity. You've got to keep going. Make your own luck. Youssef. Oof, spectacular, but has the right effect.
This is the best chance, John. I have to say it. Maybe a big ball into the box. Pile the bodies in there. Test the goalkeeper on his bravery. Is he big enough? Let's see what we can achieve here.
Ibrahim Hassan. The goalkeeper can't come that far for it. Headed straight up in the air, and now the keeper has come, and he got it when he wanted it.
Yeah, he'll be happy with that. And I'm afraid that's the way he might get tested in these last few minutes.
Well, he's hit out a good clearance as well. 10 minutes exactly to go. Egypt 0, Zambia 1. Free kick given Egypt's way. And you could sense the frustration there. He wanted to get on with it, didn't he? He wanted to take that free kick. The man was standing in his way.
John, there's no easy games, but they're a damn sight harder on bad pitches.
I'm sure they are. Hassan. He won't be used to playing on bad pitches either. Switzerland has some very good ones.
Yeah. The beneficiaries certainly of this tournament so far are the teams playing in Group A, which happens to be the host nation.
That's That's right, just happens to be. Tends to happen, doesn't it? And they get the pick. Here is the cross. Fired in by Abdel Ghani, and the header down. Might have the goalkeeper in problems. He's shown his agility in getting it away, but there again it was bouncing and could have gone anywhere.
Yeah, I think we've read the script, John. Plenty of balls into the box. Come on and fight it out. See who's the bravest. Spectacular save from the bouncing ball.
This is Egypt's chance. They have a corner, and there haven't been many of those in the match at either end. Hassan once more. He's swinging the crosses over now, and the whistle has gone. Chibala got his punch in anyway, so he'll be rather pleased about that. It was expended energy that he needn't have used. There's the header down.
What a bounce.
What a bounce. El Kas over the top. And Zambia prepared to bring on their second substitute. Here he is, a tall, lanky figure of Wati Yakini. Robert to his friends. Instead of Nelu. Not a bad time to bring on a fresh pair of legs, though. Still 0-1. And again, they're getting the bodies there when they need to do, and the ball played forward into the line of Linus Makwaza. Well, who knows?
Well, he certainly hit that with a bit of conviction.
He did. He hit it with some power as well. Quite why the name of Whites and Changwa appeared there, we're not quite sure, because the shot was definitely from Makwaza, number 12.
It was a fierce shot, but he's not entitled to score from that angle. Shube should have got across.
High into the night, the clip. And there's the clearance punched upfield. Then the Egyptians losing it in midfield to Mwitma. He's worked very hard for his side tonight. Now the substitute, the Basila. Managed to suffocate Egypt pretty well in midfield, really. Frustrated them considerably. El Kas coming and making the goalkeeper throw out as far as Molenga. Egypt looking for space, and then the ball bobbling away from the foot of the substitute, El Azim. Throw in for Ibrahim Hassan to take for Egypt. Abdel Ghani down the line. And you could hear a cry of pain almost there from Changwe. And the linesman is having words. Free kick awarded. But the Zambian substitutes should be feeling rather happy with life. They're probably about to go out and celebrate tonight. They have another match coming up, of course, pretty quickly. All these games played this week, Wednesday night and Friday night in this group. Ghana, remember, the third country competing in it in Group D. As I said before, it's known as the zone of death and certainly regarded as the toughest group of all. Nil 1 it is. Surprising scoreline to many people, but Zambia will feel that they've done enough, and they've had the one break of fortune to have gone in this game in the opposition penalty area. And Walaya managed to take that one stroke of fortune. And again, Egypt losing the ball. It was Ragab. Again, it was down to the bounce. There it is. And well, that was rather dangerous. He put his boot up high and almost caught Molenga. Down the line from Walaya. It ran away slightly. That will be a corner, but this is good for Zambia. They're now putting pressure on the Egyptian goal again. They're managing to keep the ball in the half of the field where they want it. Well, he knows it's not all over yet. That was the Zambian coach. As the corner is taken, a second goal really would kill off Egypt, I suppose. That might be asking too much for them. Makinka. Oh, it nearly crept in. Shabir going down at his near post. Makinka was the player involved for Zambia, and El Johari might just be sensing that it's not really his night. Left-footed shot, and the danger on this surface is it could just have bobbled through any old how.
He hasn't been frightened to try his luck, has he, Makinka, during the game? He hit a very fine shot in the first half. There he is again, midfield, likes to hit the ball with his left foot. A couple of times he's driven through on his own when there's been two ranks of red defenders in front of him. He's had a good, strong game, and he looks a very good player for the future. He's only young.
Yes, very confident player. I think Makinka and Mwitma have done especially well alongside Walaya. See, nothing's happening for them. El Azim, the Egyptian substitute, hasn't been able to produce much since he's arrived on the scene. And Egypt finding out what a hard competition this is, and of course they are one of the teams to beat. Everybody wants to beat Egypt. Over the years, Ghana and Egypt have been the most successful in the African Nations Cup. Of course, countries like Morocco and Tunisia have had their moments in World Cup finals as well as African Nations Cups. Egypt have a free kick, and this again might be one of their chances. They'll surely play it into the penalty area. No, they won't. Not immediately anyway. And Hassan has to go chasing out there to try and create some space for the cross, which eventually comes in. It wasn't a bad one. And I think it was Chomba once more who got his head to it. He's been effective. Ball played back in, and trying to lob it over the top like that doesn't pay off. They're a tall defence.
Need to put the ball in from good angles. They wasted an opportunity from the free kick in the first place. They played a little ball out wide when, with time ebbing away, you need to put it in that mixer.
Certainly do when you're a goal down.
You've got to go for a mistake. You've got to chance your arm. The football's failed. You've got to lift it in there and battle.
As Abdel Ghani lifts it in now. Once more, there are enough players around to knock it out, and then when the final shot came in, it was from distance from Hani Ramsey, and he couldn't beat the elevation. Oh. 1-0, Zambia leading with the one strike on goal coming from the PSV Eindhoven player Kelusha Bwalaya. Early in the second half, it's good enough at the moment for Zambia. And indeed, a famous victory for the Zambians here, is it? Well, I think he's blown early if he has, but it was such a dramatic blast on the whistle. 30 seconds to go, we reckon. That fooled everybody. The way he raised his arm as well.
Well, quite frankly, it's been a disappointing game, but I have to say that the corrugated iron-looking pitch has been the main reason for that. I would have enjoyed it to see the fire engines at half-time flooding the pitch with water. I'm sure the players would have been well relieved if that was the case. Zambia have played with a good spirit, particularly since taking the lead. We've got an incident here with a bit of excitement.
We certainly have, and I think John Soko might be lucky to escape. The referee was reaching for cards and couldn't find them, I don't think, in his pocket, otherwise Soko might have got one. Well, who knows what's going to happen. Egypt, a last desperate throw of the dice for them. And this time they do pop it straight into the penalty area. Oh, it's not missed by more than a foot, I wouldn't think, from the head of El Kas.
I have to say, absolutely awful defending. There was no way the Zambian defenders should have backed that deep. It was a straightforward kick, little angle on it, and they have to leave as much space as possible behind the last defender to give Shabala a chance of collecting that ball. Here we see them going deep, right on top of their own goalkeeper. Good jump, possibly jumped a shade too early. But to be fair, Shomba has been quite towering in his defensive duties for Zambia at the back. Bawala Kalusha up front has been a live wire. Zambia will be delighted with this result. I feel that Egypt resorted possibly too late to the deep cross into the box. They can be considered somewhat unlucky, but I really do believe the pitch has been the real winner here tonight, and both sides have done their best to produce.
And there we have it. The arms are raised this time, and that is the final result here then in Ziguinchor, and a real shock for Egypt. The side that did so well in the last World Cup finals, their coach El Gouhari goes away. Zambia have beaten them by 1-0. That goal scored by Kalusha Bwalaya, and it's Zambia who get the points. It ends here. Egypt 0, Zambia 1.